And first, just start by finding a way to sit that's comfortable. If it's comfortable for you to close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes and see if you can sit up tall and just start to notice how you're feeling. You might notice if your body wants you to fidget around a little bit to get a little more comfortable. And then just kind of notice if there's anywhere in your body that's physically calling your attention. And make a note to check in again later as you're moving. Just notice what your body is asking for, what your mind is asking for, what your heart is asking for. And really take note of that and bring it with you through practice. And maybe things will change, maybe they won't. But if you can keep the concept of ahimsa in mind today, ahimsa is a foundational concept in yoga, which means do no harm. That's how it translates, do no harm. Can you take that to mean practice active kindness? And today during practice, can you do that towards yourself? And remember that whatever I'm offering is just an offering. And you could think about it maybe like a buffet. When you go to a buffet, you don't necessarily take a lot of everything. You take what looks good to you, what tastes good to you, and you take a portion that is going to suit you today. So maybe consider how much of what you really feel like doing today and choose your challenges according to how you're feeling. If it feels okay to bring your attention to your breath, go ahead and do that. And then notice if it's possible to breathe through your nose. If it is, awesome. If it's not, that's totally fine. You can breathe through your mouth. But if you can breathe through your nose, could you possibly begin to equalize the length of your inhale and your exhale? So maybe you inhale for a slow count of 4 and exhale for a slow count of 4. And if you find it challenging to lengthen your breath, sometimes bringing a little bit of constriction to your throat, just a gentle constriction so that your breath becomes audible. We call this ujjayi breath, ujjayi pranayama. Sometimes that can help. And as you're paying attention to your breath, maybe you're doing these equal inhales and exhales. You might begin to notice the little bit of time that it takes for your breath to turn around at the top of the inhale and become an exhale. And the same thing at the end of the exhale when it turns around and becomes an inhale. So these 2 points when the thing that we're paying attention to, our inhale or our exhale, just disappear for a moment. So the object of our attention goes away, and what's left is just our attention. If you're counting on your breaths, you can release that. And then as you're ready, you can open your eyes if they're closed and take your time turning your head to look around the room. So maybe you turn and look over one shoulder slowly and then turn and look over the other shoulder. And then bring your head back to center and drop your chin to your chest and start to draw these little arcs with your chin. So bringing your chin up towards one shoulder and then down and back up towards the other shoulder. And you can continue drawing these little arcs, or sometimes I'll call them smiles because I think that's a nice way to think about it. Or if you'd like to continue drawing this arc into a big circle, you might lift your chin and draw it up and over to the other shoulder and then down. And maybe once you get your head down and centered, you reverse directions. But just take a couple of minutes to check out your neck and see what is going on in that neck today. You can move as slowly as you like. Just notice anything your neck has to say today. As usual, my neck is pretty mouthy. Lots of cracks and pops and staticky sounds. And as you're moving around, checking out what's going on in your neck, make sure you're still breathing, so not holding your breath. It can be sometimes, especially if we encounter tension, it can be sort of an instinct to tense up and hold our breath. But can you breathe through whatever is there? Take your time finishing that up. And whenever you're ready, you can come back to center. And here, bring your right hand down to the ground beside you. You can have your fingertips there, or you can place your palm down, whatever feels right. And start to lift your left arm to the degree that that works in your body. And then begin to stretch through your side body. So think about it as lengthening from your hip bone to your shoulder. Can you stretch that area? And if it feels okay to you, you might consider leaning towards your right arm, aiming to keep your chest kind of open here to see, can you feel a stretch through your side body? Maybe you'll feel a stretch in other places, like sometimes I'll feel this in my armpit, depending on where my arm is. And then you might start to kind of close your chest towards the ground. So rather than keeping it open, turn it and stretch through your upper arm, maybe leaning down, kind of folding over your body to whatever extent feels right to you, and kind of exploring what's going on here. Like you move your arm around, what does that feel like? You might try lifting and lowering a couple of times to any degree, and these movements might not need to be very big in order to feel some stuff. But can you keep your hips rooted down as you're doing this? And then maybe sweep your left arm over towards the left and bring your right arm over towards the left to kind of feel the same thing on the other side. So moving around, exploring and stretching, seeing what's going on. You might feel it through your back, your shoulder. And then maybe you begin to open through your chest, that you end up in the same position you started on the other side. Possibly, if that feels good, but certainly explore whatever feels good here. And then kind of move around like that, with that as kind of just a suggestion for where to start today. So, trying out these twists and side bends, and you can adapt this however you like. So, maybe this is combining a few things from the buffet table, and you can combine them however you like. You can take as much or as little of each as you like, but see if you can make this movement your own in a way that really suits your body today. If you think you might like to explore something a little bit different, you might consider opening into a little bit of potentially a back bend or a stretch through your chest at any point during this moving. So, as it works for you, where it works for you. For me, I like to do that while I'm kind of leaning down onto one hand. But for you, maybe it works better if you use both arms while sitting up, or maybe placing your fingertips on the floor and just kind of leaning back into it, lifting your chin a little. There could be lots of ways of exploring that kind of movement. And sometimes I'll do this sort of almost like an exaggerated backstroke. So sweeping my arm forward, over, and back. Take another minute to really check out what's going on here. As you're ready, you can come back to center. But if this is something that's really working for you, you could continue with that. But if you're ready to move on, bring the soles of your feet onto the ground in front of you, legs pretty much parallel. You can even squeeze them together. And bring your fingertips behind you. See if you can lengthen up through your back so that you're not rounding or arching, but as sort of stable as you can be in your spine. And then lift one of your legs so that that shin is parallel to the ground. And then drop it and lift the other one. And you can continue like this, lifting one and then the other. Or you might consider lifting them both up and hovering them both. So either of those is great. And another option would be lifting your arms, maybe bringing your hands behind your knees, or possibly extending your arms alongside your knees. So you might be doing any of these options, lifting and lowering or hovering. Hands can be behind you, behind your knees, or maybe extended out. So lots of versions of boat or navasana. And as you're ready, if your arms are up, you can bring them down. And if your legs are up, you can bring them down. And then take a moment to do a few windshield wipers or anything else that feels right. So maybe you widen your feet out a little and drop your knees from side to side gently. You might also stretch your legs out and kind of wobble your feet from side to side so that you're turning your whole legs all the way from the hips down. And then when you're ready, place your feet back where they were for Navasana and try Navasana one more time as you like. So lots of options, making sure you're lengthening through your back. And then whatever you want to do with your legs. Again, there's lots on the buffet table, plenty to kind of check out and decide you like or dislike. And as always, you're looking for a balance between effort and ease. So one that suits you today. If your arms are up, go ahead and bring them down. And if your legs are up, bring them down. And then again, do anything you need to between this and whatever comes next. You might take a few deep breaths and maybe sigh them out or try horse lips. And then as you're ready, bring both legs in front of you and see if you can sit up into Dandasana. And your knees can be bent to whatever degree makes it work for you. Can you flex your feet? And notice, does that make it feel different? And maybe try flexing and pointing your feet a couple of times. And then as you're ready, flex your feet and hold them there. And see if you can bring some real engagement into your legs here. So you can straighten your legs as much as feels right to you. And then if you feel like you have the space in your body to make this still feel comfortable without forcing anything, maybe you consider folding forward to any degree. And if you're folding forward, your hands can be anywhere along your legs. Maybe you rest them on the floor. Maybe you wrap them around the soles of your feet if they reach. Sometimes mine reach, sometimes not so much. But if you're coming into this stretch, or if you're feeling a stretch, that is your muscle spindles talking to you. Muscle spindles are these little coils that wrap around muscle fibers and they sense stretch. And some people think that what we're actually doing when we're stretching and gaining flexibility is we're conditioning those muscle spindles to be a little, to adapt, and maybe they become a little less, I guess you could say, reactive. As you're ready, if you're folded forward, come on up. Bring yourself up to standing in whatever way works for you. Take your time getting there. And then take your time finding mountain pose. What for you feels like a comfortable way to stand where you can engage through your body and stand up tall. You might lift all your toes and spread them out. And when we do this, sometimes it helps us feel that big toe mound and the pinky toe mound. And then keeping the engagement in your feet, you could drop your toes and notice what that feels like. Maybe take a couple of deep breaths each time you do, starting at your feet and kind of drawing your attention up through your feet on the inhale, through your legs, up through your body, and then exhaling and bringing your attention back down. The next time you inhale, maybe lift your arms on that inhale. And as you exhale, if it feels okay, sit back into chair, maybe throwing your arms back as you do. And then as you inhale, maybe come up, lift your arms, and then exhale into chair. And if moving with your breath doesn't work for you, you might just move this way and breathe naturally. But if you like syncing your breath with your movement, go ahead and try that out. And one other thing you might try as you're moving like this would be to shift your weight into one foot and maybe hover the other one when you come up. And then step back down and shift your weight into the other foot. Come up, maybe hover the foot that's not holding your weight. And if you're doing that, you might lift your knee. And as you're moving like this, really pay attention to where you're holding your weight. So if you're shifting between legs, it may be that you're just shifting your weight between legs, keeping them both on the ground. And notice what you're feeling. So you might be feeling quite a bit in your thighs, maybe in your glutes, maybe lots of other places. And next time you lift your arms up, you can pause standing up and release your arms. And then if you have a wall around that you can lean up against, find that wall and lean your body against the wall. If you don't have a wall, I would say find a place to rest your hand. But if you have a wall, lean your butt and your back against the wall and step your feet out a little bit. Wherever you are here, see if it's possible to flex your feet. So lift your toes up towards your body and then drop them down, and try that a few times. So if you're doing this, you don't have a wall that's clear enough to hold on to lean on, you could hold on to a wall or something else and lift your feet up, drop them down, lift them up, drop them down. If you're leaning against the wall with your feet out in front of you, if you step out farther, it's harder because there's more weight there. If you step in, it might not be as difficult. So adjust where you have your feet if you're trying it this way. And just make sure there's nothing under your feet that can slip out if you're leaning. But try this until you really feel something, until you've had enough of this potentially really concentrated tasting dish. So again, you might be doing this by having a hand at the wall, lifting and lowering your toes. And that might not look like much. I have a lot of flexion in my feet, so I can lift my toes up like this. And many people don't have a lot of flexion just because of the way their ankle anatomy is put together. So if that's you, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It just means you have normal variation, just like we all do. So we're working these muscles at the front of our calves here, which are super important for walking, for balance, for slowing ourselves down, stopping ourselves when we start to fall over. But when you're ready, you can stop that and then come to the front of your mat. And find mountain pose. As you're ready, on an inhale, sweep your arms up. And on an exhale, sit back into chair. Pause in chair for a moment. If you have your arms back, that's fine. If you have your arms forward, that's fine. Whatever feels right to you. Then lift yourself back up to mountain. Shift your weight into your right leg. Hover your left, and then step your left leg back and come into a lunge position. So you're in a version of warrior one here. You can spin your back heel down, scooch things around to make it more comfortable. And if you would like to move your arms, you might bring them into cactus arms, or you might lift them up. Take a couple of deep breaths here in your warrior one. Then straighten your front leg and find a little bit of buoyancy in your legs. And then as you're ready, step yourself back to the front of your mat in as many steps as feels right. Maybe one big one, maybe a bunch of little ones. Pause in mountain pose. On an inhale, sweep your arms up. Exhale, sit into chair. Pause in chair, just noticing all of those big muscles working to hold you here. As you're ready, come up to standing, shift your weight into your left leg and step your right leg back. Come into your warrior one, shifting yourself around as needed and choosing whatever arm position you like. You might even keep your hands on your hips. Sometimes drawing everything into the midline feels really stable. You might bring your hands into Anjali Mudra. So the buffet is pretty big. There's a lot to choose from here. Just make sure you're choosing kindly, remembering ahimsa. When you're ready, you can straighten that front leg and then find some buoyancy in all of your joints and launch yourself forward as it works for you. As you're ready, sweep your arms up, sit yourself back into chair. Pause in chair, Utkatasana, fierce pose. Come back up to standing and shift your weight into your right leg. Step your left leg back. Find your warrior one. Decide on whatever sauces you would like. Arm positions, whatever. As you're ready, straighten your front leg. Find some buoyancy and bring yourself forward. And we'll do that one more time on the other side. When you're ready, sweep your arms up, sit back into chair. Lift yourself up and shift your weight into your left leg. Step your right leg back. Find your version of Warrior One, Virabhadrasana One. Straighten your front leg, soften through your joints, and launch yourself forward back into mountain. Then as you're ready, make your way down onto your mat. And you can come all the way down into lying on your back as you're ready. Once you're lying on your back, Bring the soles of your feet to the ground with your knees bent. Cross your right leg over your left leg. And notice if you can feel anything in your hip, your outer right hip. You might extend your arms out to the side or alongside your body. And maybe lean your knees towards the left to deepen the stretch in your outer right hip, if you're feeling that. When you're ready, come back up and try that on the other side. So left foot on the floor, right leg on the floor, right foot on the floor, left leg crossed over the right. And then as you're ready, notice what you're feeling in your left hip and decide if you want to lean your knees over towards the right, which might deepen that stretch. It might be a stretch for your back too. But if you want to come into this twist, it's an option. And when you're ready, come back to center and take a moment to decide how you would like to rest in Shavasana, whatever position you'd like to take. You might stretch out into a traditional Shavasana with your arms and legs falling to the side. Anything that feels restful to you. If you'd like to close your eyes, you can close your eyes and you can just take this time to rest.